Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Hi, I'm Terry Long.
And I'm Jeremy Eden, and we are the co-CEOs of Harvest Earnings.
Welcome to the Elephant in the Boardroom.
Hello.
Hello.
Episode number 3, season 3. So today we're going to talk about change. And back in the day, it was very typical to hear, we've always done it this way, so we always will do it this way. There's no reason to change. We don't hear that anymore. We haven't heard that in years, really. It used to be so common. And the reason we think we haven't heard it is because change is constant. Every company has had so much change that employees have realized that resistance is futile. So they just go along with it. Of course, there's change. All right, we're going to get a new system. It's probably going to be painful. There's going to be things we lose and things we gain, and there's going to be a big learning curve. And, there's nothing we can do about it anyway, so let's just ride with it. Jeremy, what do you have to say about change management?
So, talking about change for a change. I certainly remember, as you said in the past, there is this belief that people resist change, which I always thought was kind of funny because, I'm going to go to college somewhere in some foreign city and I'm going to make all new friends and I'm going to get married to somebody and we're going to have kids and I'm going to go to vacation someplace I've never been. Somehow those changes, everybody embraces.
Well, not everybody.
But this idea that people resist change, so we're going to have to build change management processes to somehow get people to accept the change, and prepare them for it. It's all kind of nonsense. Usually people resist change because of the specific change. Somebody in corporate comes up with some, I don't want to say harebrained scheme, but something that doesn't really seem right to the people who are going to have to do it. And that's what they don't like.
And it may be a perfectly good scheme.
Yeah.
What's the opposite of a harebrained scheme?
A tortoise brain scheme.
Okay. But it hasn't been communicated to them. So they don't know, what this change is even about. They haven't been involved.
Right. And so for companies to succeed today, and all senior leadership believes this, change is part of the DNA. Change is, you have to have a culture and processes and people that embrace change, want change, are good at change. And for that, it's not a matter of, let's assume they're resistant and build ways to overcome them. It's how do you create those changes so, as the title of this episode will be, the buy-in is built in so that people are embracing it because they want that change and they're glad that the company is making those changes. And the sort of secret sauce to that, very simple to say, harder to do, is to get the people who are involved, who are closest to the change, closest to the work, to be involved in the change. And if you talk to someone and say, what are your frustrations about work? They'll go on forever. And if you say, okay, corporate will come up with some solution, that's one thing. But the other is, if you start getting them to think about, what would you change to make it work? And how practical would it be? And what other alternatives are? Suddenly they're helping to solve the problem. And people love their own ideas and love to have their opinion asked and most people like solving problems of various kinds. Outside of work, they're doing it all the time.
Yeah. And then it's not just a people-pleasing kind of thing.
No.
You will get to a better answer.
Right.
I was telling you about looking at a glass door entry from an employee. I guess I won't name the company, but it's a financial services company. And the person was just on a rant, gave him one star, and was on a rant about how a system had been changed. And it was very clear to this person that they had never talk to anybody on the front line who was going to actually use this system. And, it made it so much worse. It meant I had to go to 3 screens to serve this customer instead of 1. And if only they had just asked, this could have all been prevented. And that's the more common thing that we hear these days.
And particularly when change, which almost is always the case, affects more than one function. Finding out what the downstream function might be affected by, or what the upstream function has to do, or maybe I've reversed those two. But in any case, because often those are surprises to those people, rather than having gotten them together involved in creating the change and understanding the consequences on other groups. I remember way back when, this would have been in the 80s, Goldman Sachs was going to put in what they called burger boards. And what they were is that McDonald's at that time was using boards where the cashier could say cheeseburger, hamburger, fries, and then it would determine the price and send the order back to the kitchen. So McDonald's was way ahead of the curve on this kind of thing. And Goldman Sachs decided it was going to try to use a similar thing in their trading floor. And rather than have all these young kids designing it and figuring it out, and they were all technically savvy, they put together a little group where they deliberately picked some of the most curmudgeonly, old school guys, because they were all guys, to work on this. And sure enough, by the time they got through with it, those couple of those curmudgeonly guys were like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it also helped get everybody else, of course, interested in it, because they figured, well, geez, if Joe, our biggest, trading partner, curmudgeon and super successful trading guy, thought this was going to help him make more money, well, then get me in on the act.
Yeah. So all this change management, we think, is completely unnecessary. It's manage how you decide what to change first, and then implementing that change will not need a whole lot of management other than to make sure the project is implemented correctly.
Yeah. And it treats people like they're kids. It feels very manipulative, because you are in fact trying to manipulate people into something, as opposed to involving them, and they just naturally come along and are bought in, because they naturally are also involved in coming up with the solutions. It's not like you would never say to your family, well, this year we're going to vacation somewhere else, we're going to Disneyland, but first we have a 3-week change management module to get you to, feel good about this change we're making in our vacation.
I don't know. I, for one, don't really want to go to Disneyland. Okay. Your point is well taken. So I don't understand why change management is even still a thing, frankly.
Because I think it's a thing because companies aren't quite sure how to involve people closest to the work, how to get them bought in. And so they do the traditional things. They either bring in a McKinsey or some consultant to do it, or they set up a little transformation office to do it, or whatever. And so they're constantly faced with the problem of people who are resistant, because there are probably good reasons to be resistant, or at least uncomfortable. So since companies haven't figured out ways, or learned from those companies who have figured it out, how to develop these changes in a better way,
Yeah. But isn't it interesting? I haven't thought about this, but you just sparked this with me. So change is hard, and we have to help people figure out how to change. Yet now the big buzzword is transform, which is changing on steroids.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so much jargony, and here's the fun management thing of the year. Agile skyrocketed. We are not big fans. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
And then there's all the business guru-y buzzwords and books and all that stuff. And if people would just do the basics and talk to the people who are doing the work to figure out what is broken and what needs to be fixed.
And how to fix it, right? It's not
Yeah.
just soliciting their opinions. It's getting them on the field to play the game and be involved, because these days we work with employees from the graveyard shift in a factory to the boardroom, and the amount of smarts and creativity and passion at every level, everywhere. Not every person, sure, but the amount is huge. This isn't the 1920s before Taylorism, and you had to tell people how to use a shovel or something, which apparently he did. So,
and isn't this also kind of your theory on why management consulting practices are on the downslide?
yeah, and I would say have been on the downside since maybe the 50s, 60s, 70s.
I thought you were going to say the 80s when you left.
Yeah,
90s?
yeah. When I left, it all
went to hell.
Yeah, the
That's
whole,
when the change
when
occurred.
Marvin Bower created McKinsey, obviously McKinsey created McKinsey, but Marvin Bower was the true spiritual founder of modern McKinsey and modern day consulting. It was all based on the idea that a lot of management of a lot of companies was pretty weak. And he could find more talented, smarter people that could sort of be hired for a particular problem. But my God, nowadays, everybody in companies are as smart or smarter than the people in consultants, and they actually have the benefit of knowing something about the business.
Yeah. So there you go. Change is it what's the only things that are inevitable are death and taxes, but we would now add change
We would, yeah.
onto that, and there's a really easy way to do it.
And
that,
sorry.
well, I was just going to say, to get the buy-in built in to the things you are going to change.
And the benefit of this is what you want in your people are for them to say, you know what our company is really great at? Our company isn't just great at this product or this service, or our company is really great at changing. It's exciting to be here. We think of great things to do. We get them done with everybody's cooperation, and we do it quickly. And I would hate to go to some company where, oh my God, every change is beating us over the head. And so this is actually a core strategic advantage if executive teams can figure out how to do it.
Yeah, talk
And some
about best places to work.
Yeah.
This is a big criterion.
Criterion.
All right.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye.